Dr. Amanda Clark pressed her face against the cold metal window of the USS Endeavour and watched the strange blue planet grow larger as their ship moved closer. The planet looked peaceful from space, but she knew that looks could be wrong. Very wrong. "We're getting close to the surface now, Captain Jake," Morrison said as he walked up behind her. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. "You ready for this, Amanda?" Amanda turned around and looked at the captain. Jake was a good man, she thought. He had brown hair that was getting gray at the sides and kind eyes that made people trust him. But right now, those eyes looked worried. "As ready as I can be," Amanda said. She picked up her small bag of tools and checked them one more time. Inside were things that helped her understand new languages fast. Small computers, sound recorders, and books full of notes about how different too. Aliens talked to each other. Amanda was not like other people who studied alien languages. Most people took months or even years to learn how aliens spoke, but Amanda could do it in hours. She had a gift that she did not fully understand herself. When she heard aliens talk, something in her brain would change and adapt. Soon she would. No, not just their words, but how they thought and felt. The ship shook a little as it entered the planet's air. Through the window, Amanda could see forests of strange trees that glowed with soft light. The trees moved even though there was no wind. This was the home of the Zephrians, and they were unlike any aliens humans had met before. "Remember, Jake?" said the Galactic Council says the Zephrians are dangerous. They've been fighting with 3 other alien races for over 50 years. Our job is to make peace, not to take sides. Amanda nodded, but she had her own ideas about the Zephrians. She had studied the few recordings of their language that humans had. Something about the way they communicated felt familiar to her. Like music she had heard before but could not remember where. The ship landed with a soft bump. Amanda could hear the engines getting quiet. Through the walls she could hear strange sounds from outside. Low rumbling noises, high singing sounds, and something that sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "That's them," Jake said. "The Zephrians are coming to meet us." Amanda and Jake walked to the main door of the ship. With them came Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks, a tall man with red hair who always made Amanda feel safe. Ryan carried weapons, but Amanda hoped they would not need them. The door opened with a hiss of air. Amanda stepped outside and felt warm. Thick air filled her lungs. The air smelled like flowers and rain. Around them, the glowing trees moved in patterns that looked almost like they were dancing. Then she saw the Zephrians. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Each Zephrian was about as tall as a human, but their bodies were made of something that looked like living crystal. Light moved through their bodies in patterns of blue, green, and gold. They had no faces like humans, but Amanda could somehow tell where they were looking. The Zephrians made the strange sounds Amanda had heard from inside the ship. But now that she was close to them, Amanda could tell that the sounds were not just noise. They were talking. As Amanda listened, something wonderful and strange happened in her mind. The sounds began to make sense. The low rumbling was like the bass notes in music, carrying feelings of sadness or happiness. The high singing sounds were like words, but words that painted pictures in her mind instead of just saying things. The wind chime sounds were like punctuation marks, showing when one thought ended and another began. But there was more. Amanda realized that the Zephrians were not just making sounds. Light patterns moved across their crystal bodies in time with the sounds. And she could smell changes in the air, sweet or bitter smells that added more meaning to what they were saying. "By the stars," Amanda whispered. "They're not just talking with sound. They're using light, smell, and vibration all at the same time." Jake looked at her with surprise. "You can understand them already." "I'm starting to," Amanda said. She took a step toward the closest Zephrian. The creature's body began to glow brighter, and Amanda could feel gentle vibrations in the ground under her feet. Amanda opened her mouth and tried to make the sound she had heard. Her first attempts were clumsy, but the Zephrians seemed to understand that she was trying to talk to them. One of them came closer, and Amanda could see herself reflected in its crystal-like surface. The Zephrian made a series of sounds that Amanda somehow knew meant welcome and surprise and hope, all at the same time. But then it said something else, something that made Amanda's heart beat faster in her mind. Amanda heard the words, "You are the one who speaks to all minds." Amanda looked back at Jake and Ryan. Their faces showed confusion and worry. They could not understand what the Zephrians were saying. But Amanda could, and what she heard made her realize that this meeting was much more important than anyone had thought. The Zephrian continued to speak. Amanda translated in her mind. "We have waited long for one like you." The old prophecies spoke of a voice that could bridge all thoughts, all hearts, all souls. You have come at the time of great need. Amanda felt something changing inside her brain. It was like a door opening or a light turning on in a dark room. She could feel the Zephrians' thoughts touching her own, not in words, but in pure meaning. And through that connection, she could sense something that made her afraid and excited at the same time. The Zephrians knew things. Important things about the galaxy, and about humans, and about her. Things that could change everything. Amanda looked at the crystal being in front of her and spoke in its own language, using sounds and light patterns, and even trying to make the right smells. Her words were simple, but she knew the Zephrian. "Understood. I am here to learn," Amanda said. "Teach me." The Zephrian's body began to pulse with warm golden light, and Amanda knew that her real education was about to begin. 3 weeks had passed since Amanda's first meeting with the Zephrians, and news of her amazing gift had spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Every space station, every alien world, every ship traveling between the stars had heard about the human woman who could speak to any species. Amanda sat in her small room on the USS Endeavour, reading messages that came from all over the galaxy. Some were from scientists who wanted to study her. Others were from alien leaders who wanted to meet her. But the messages that worried her most came from something called the hegemony. The hegemony was a group of 5 powerful alien races that controlled most of the galaxy's trade routes and military bases. They had been in charge for over 1,000 years, and they did not like changes. The messages from them were not friendly. Amanda Ryan Brooks said as he knocked on her door, "We need to talk." Amanda opened the door and saw Ryan's worried face. Behind him stood Captain Jake Morrison, and both men looked like they had not slept in days. "What's wrong?" Amanda asked. Ryan came into her room and closed the door behind him. "The hegemony has put a price on your head. They want you captured or killed." Amanda felt cold fear run through her body. "Why? I haven't hurt anyone." Jake sat down on her small chair. "It's exactly why they want to stop you. Amanda, you're making them scared. For 1,000 years, they've kept different alien races from talking to each other. When aliens can't communicate well, they can't work together. They can't unite against the hegemony. But you're changing that," Ryan added. "Every time you learn a new alien language, you're breaking down the walls they've built." Amanda walked to her window and looked out at the stars. In the distance, she could see ships from 3 different alien races traveling together. A month ago, those same races had been enemies. Now they were working as friends because Amanda had helped them understand each other. "I won't hide," Amanda said. "There are too many species out there that need help." Jake and Ryan looked at each other. They had expected her to say this. "We know," Jake said. "That's why we have a plan." Over the next few days, Amanda began the most dangerous project of her life. Instead of hiding from the hegemony, she started reaching out to every alien species she could find. She sent messages to races that most people thought were too primitive to understand advanced ideas. She contacted aliens that the Galactic Council had marked as dangerous or hostile. Her first contact was with the Luminari, a race of crystal, beings that lived partly in normal space and partly in a place called subspace. Most people thought the Luminari were just pretty rocks that floated in space, but when Amanda found the right way to communicate with them, she discovered they were incredibly smart. The Luminari spoke by changing the frequency of light they gave off. Amanda had to build a special machine to see and copy their light patterns. When she finally made contact, the Luminari told her something amazing. "We have been waiting," they said in their light language. "For countless years we have watched the galaxy grow sick with separation and fear. You are the first in 1,000 generations who can hear our true voice."
Wow.
The Luminari showed Amanda how they could change matter at the smallest level, working with atoms and molecules like a human might work with building blocks. They had been watching the galaxy for millions of years, but they had never been able to share their knowledge because no one could understand their way of talking. Next, Amanda contacted the aeroids, a race that lived in the thick air of gas giant planets. These aliens had no solid bodies at all. They were made of organized gas and electricity, floating in the storms of their worlds like living clouds. The aeroids communicated through changes in air pressure and electrical fields. Amanda had to use the ship's sensors to detect their messages. When she finally understood them, she learned that the aeroids could control weather on an enormous scale. They could make hurricanes, stop droughts, and even change the climate of entire planets. "Your kind thinks we are simple wind," the aeroids told her. "But we are the shepherds of atmosphere and storm. We have waited for one who could carry our words to the solid-bodied races." The most amazing contact Amanda made was with beings called the Void Walkers. These aliens lived in the empty space between dimensions, appearing in normal space only when they chose to. Most people thought they were myths or ghost stories. Amanda found them by accident when she was trying to contact a different species. One moment she was alone in her room, and the next moment the air began to shimmer and bend. Shape appeared that hurt her eyes to look at directly. "Greetings, Bridge Builder," the Void Walker said inside her mind. "We have watched your efforts." With great interest, the Void Walkers told Amanda that they could travel instantly between any 2 points in the galaxy. They had been carrying messages between distant worlds for millions of years, but only for species that could perceive them. They offered to help Amanda connect with aliens in the farthest corners of space. As Amanda made contact with more and more species, she began to see a pattern. All of these races were much more advanced and intelligent than anyone had thought. They had incredible abilities and vast knowledge, but they had been ignored or dismissed by the major powers of the galaxy. "It's like they've been kept in boxes," Amanda told Ryan one evening as they walked through the ship's corridors. "All these amazing species, separated from each other, not knowing what the others can do." Ryan nodded. "And the hegemony benefits from keeping them separated. If all these races worked together, they'd be more powerful than the hegemony could ever handle." "That's exactly what I'm thinking," Amanda said. "Ryan, what if the current power structure of the galaxy isn't natural? What if it's been built on purpose to keep everyone apart?" Before Ryan could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Captain Jake's voice came over the speakers. "All hands to battle stations. Hegemony ships approaching fast." Amanda looked through a nearby window and saw 5 large warships moving toward them. The ships were dark and angular, built for fighting rather than exploring. "They found us," Ryan said, but Amanda was not afraid. As she watched the hegemony ships approach, she felt something she had never felt before, curved through her mental connections. To the Luminari, the Aeroids, and the Void Walkers, she could sense their willingness to help. "Ryan," she said with a smile, "I think it's time to show the hegemony what real cooperation looks like." The hegemony had come to capture or kill Amanda, but they had no idea what they were really facing. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy's hidden powers were about to work together. The hegemony ships opened fire without warning. Bright beams of energy shot across space toward the USS Endeavour, but something impossible happened. "What in the stars was that?" Captain Jake shouted from the bridge. Amanda smiled as she felt the luminary's presence in her mind. The crystal beings had used their power over matter to bend light itself, making the weapons miss their target. At the same time, she could sense the Void Walkers moving through space around the hegemony ships, invisible and ready to strike. "Amanda, what's happening?" Ryan asked as he ran up beside her. "My friends are helping us," Amanda said. "The hegemony wanted to fight, but they don't understand what they're facing." The aeroids struck next. Even though their homeworlds were thousands of light years away, they had learned to project their power through space itself. The air around the hegemony ships began to thicken and swirl. Electrical storms formed out of nothing, surrounding the enemy vessels with lightning and wind. One of the hegemony ships tried to escape, but a Void Walker appeared directly in front of it. The alien ship stopped so fast that its crew was probably thrown against the walls. More voidwalkers appeared. Around the other ships, trapping them in a circle they could not break, Amanda opened a communication channel to the hegemony fleet. "This is Dr. Amanda Clark. I think we need to talk," a harsh voice answered her. The alien spoke in a language that sounded like metal scraping against stone, but Amanda's gift let her understand every word. "Human witch," the voice said, "have interfered with the natural order of the galaxy. Surrender now, and your death will be quick." "I don't think you understand," Amanda replied in the alien's own language. "I'm not the one who's outnumbered here." To prove her point, Amanda sent a mental signal to her new allies. More ships began appearing around the hegemony fleet. Zephrian vessels that glowed with soft light, luminary constructs that looked like floating crystal palaces, even some ships that belonged to races Amanda had contacted just days before. The hegemony commander was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Less angry, more afraid. "How many species have you corrupted?" he asked. "I haven't corrupted anyone," Amanda said. "I've just helped them remember that they don't have to be alone." The battle ended without another shot being fired. The hegemony ships retreated, but Amanda knew they would be back with more forces. She had won this fight, but the real war was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, Amanda worked with Dr. Lisa Thompson, a brilliant engineer who had joined the USS Endeavor's crew. Lisa was a small woman with black hair and quick hands that could build almost anything. Together, they created something that would change the galaxy forever. They called it the Neural Web. The Neural Web was a communication system unlike anything that had ever existed. It didn't just translate languages, it connected minds across different species, allowing them to share thoughts, feelings, and knowledge directly. "The trick," Lisa explained, as she worked on one of the quantum communication devices, is making sure each species can keep their own identity while still connecting to the network. Amanda nodded as she tested the mental connection protocols. Every species thinks differently. Humans think in words and pictures. The Zephrians think in colors and music. The Luminari think in mathematical patterns. But underneath all that, we all want the same basic things. "Like what?" Lisa asked. "To be understood, to be safe, to grow and learn, to take care of our families. And friends?" Lisa smiled. "You make it sound simple." "Maybe it is simple," Amanda said. "Maybe the hard part is just getting past all the barriers that keep us from seeing how similar we really are." The first neural web node was hidden inside what looked like a piece of space junk floating near a busy trade route. Ships passed by it every day without knowing that it was quietly connecting their crews' minds to species they had never even heard of. The results were amazing. A human farming colony called New Eden was struggling to grow food in their planet's poor soil. Through the neural web, they connected with the Verdanians, a plant-like species that had mastered the art of helping soil become rich and healthy. Within weeks, New Eden's crops were growing better than ever before. On the industrial world of Iron Gate, human miners were having trouble digging through extra hard rock. The neural web connected them with the Rockborn, a species that lived underground and could feel the stress patterns in stone. The Rockborn taught the humans exactly where to dig, to avoid cave-ins and find the richest, or deposits. The Zephrians learned new ways to use energy from the Solarians, a species that lived close to stars and fed on pure radiation. The Solarians learned about music and art from the Zephrians, discovering beauty in patterns they'd never noticed before. But the most important change happened when the neural web prevented a war. The crystalline worlds were a group of planets, inhabited by beings that looked like living gemstones. For months, they had been preparing to fight against the hegemony, who wanted to mine their worlds for rare crystals. The crystalline beings were peaceful, but they were ready to die defending their homes. Then the hegemony attacked without warning. Amanda felt the attack through the neural web like a punch to her stomach. The crystalline beings were crying out in pain and fear as hegemony ships burned their cities and killed their people. "We have to help them," Amanda told Captain Jake. "With what?" Jake asked. "We're just one ship." The hegemony sent a whole fleet. Amanda closed her eyes and reached out through the neural web. She could feel the minds of 17 different species. All connected through her network, all angry about the attack on the peaceful crystalline worlds. "We're not just one ship," Amanda said. "We're all of us." What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy. Ships from 17 different species appeared around the crystalline worlds, but they didn't fight the way anyone expected. Instead of shooting at each other, they worked together like parts of a single giant machine. The Luminari used their power over matter to create shields that protected the crystalline cities. The aeroids generated storms that confused the hegemonies. Sensors. The Voidwalkers teleported hegemony weapons right off their ships. The Zephrians used their knowledge of energy patterns to disable the enemy's power systems without killing anyone. The Rockborn, who lived deep underground, caused small earthquakes that shook the hegemony's landing parties, but didn't hurt any buildings. The Verdanians released pollen that made the enemy soldiers fall asleep instead of fighting in less than 2 hours. The hegemony fleet was defeated without a single death on either side. Commander Patricia Hayes, Amanda's old teacher and mentor, arrived at the crystalline worlds just as the battle ended. Patricia was an older woman with gray hair and serious eyes who had taught xenolinguistics for 30 years. She had always believed that different species should be studied carefully and contacted slowly. "Amanda," Patricia said as she came aboard. "The USS Endeavor? What have you done?" Amanda looked at her teacher with tired but happy eyes. "I've shown everyone that we don't have to be enemies. We can be family." Patricia looked out at the ships from 17 different species working together to repair the damage from the attack. Some were helping wounded crystalline beings. Others were sharing food and medical supplies. Few were even playing games together, finding ways to have fun despite their different forms of life. "This is impossible," Patricia whispered. "Ago I would have agreed with you," Amanda said. "But now I know something I didn't know before. The galaxy isn't supposed to be divided. We're supposed to be connected. The hegemony has been keeping us apart on purpose." Patricia turned to look at Amanda with new understanding in her eyes. "They've been afraid of what we could accomplish together." "Exactly," Amanda said. "And now they have good reason to be afraid." Amanda stood in the meeting room of the USS Endeavor, staring at the holographic image of the most powerful being in the galaxy. Overlord the Squan of the Dominion was huge, even through the projection. His body looked like it was made of black metal and sharp edges. 6 arms moved as he talked, and his voice sounded like thunder rolling across mountains. "Dr. Amanda Clark," the Overlord said, "you have caused enough trouble. It is time we met face to face." Amanda felt her heart beating fast, but she kept her voice steady. "Where do you want to meet?" "The neutral station at Crossroads Prime." "Come alone, or we will destroy every world that has joined your little network." The hologram disappeared, leaving Amanda alone with Captain Jake, Ryan, and Dr. Lisa Thompson. The room was quiet for a long moment. "It's a trap," Ryan said. "Ack!" "You can't go alone." "I know," Amanda replied. "But I also know that he won't hurt me. He needs me alive." "Why?" Jake asked. Amanda walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Through the neural web, she could feel the minds of hundreds of species, all connected and working together. But lately, she had been sensing something else. Something that felt old and dark and very angry. "Because I'm not the first person like me," Amanda said. "And he wants to make sure I'm the last." 3 days later, Amanda arrived at Crossroads Prime. The space station was enormous, built where 5 major trade routes crossed paths. Ships from dozens of different species docked there every day. But today the station was almost empty. The hegemony had scared away most of the normal traffic. Amanda walked through the station's corridors alone. Her footsteps echoed in the empty halls. She could feel eyes watching her from hidden cameras, but she was not really alone. She carried the thoughts and support of all her allies. The meeting room was at the center of the station. When Amanda entered, she saw Overlord Dexquan waiting for her. In person, he was even more frightening than his hologram. He was 3 times taller than Amanda, and his metal skin was covered with scars from 1,000 battles. "Sit," the Overlord commanded, pointing to a small chair across from his massive throne. Amanda sat down, but kept her back straight and her eyes on his face. "You wanted to talk, so talk." Dexquan leaned forward, and Amanda could smell something like burning oil coming from his body. "Do you know what you are, little human?" "I'm a xenolinguist," Amanda said. "I study alien languages." The overlord made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like metal being crushed. "How?" "You are much more than that. You are what we call a nexus being, a creature that can bridge the gaps between different forms of consciousness." Amanda felt a chill run down her back. "What do you mean?" The Squan stood up and walked to a wall covered with ancient symbols. "These symbols tell the history of the galaxy, Amanda Clark, a history that most species have forgotten. Long ago, beings like you appeared every few thousand years. They would unite species, create great alliances, build wonderful civilizations." "That sounds good," Amanda said. "Why do you say it like it's a bad thing?" The overlord turned around, and Amanda saw something like sadness in his 6 eyes, because they always failed in the end. Unity is not natural. Different species are meant to be separate. When they try to become one, they destroy themselves. Amanda stood up from her chair. "You're wrong. I've seen what happens when species work together. They become stronger, not weaker." "For a while, yes," that Squan said, "but it never lasts. The last Nexus being appeared 3,000 years ago. She united half the galaxy under something called the Harmony Alliance. Do you know what happened to them?" Amanda felt her mouth go dry. "What happened?" "They tore themselves apart in the worst war the galaxy has ever seen. Billions died. Entire species were wiped out. Whole star systems were destroyed." The overlord walked closer to Amanda. "We created the hegemony from the survivors. We built it to make sure such a war could never happen again. By keeping everyone apart," Amanda said. "Keeping everyone safe," Dexquan replied. "The Babel engine was our greatest creation. It scrambles communications between species, makes it hard for them to understand each other deeply. It prevents the kind of dangerous unity that you are creating." Amanda felt something click in her mind. The Babel engine. That's why some species seem more primitive than they really are. That's why the Luminari and Aeroids and Voidwalkers have been so isolated. "Exactly," the overlord said. "The engine suppresses certain abilities that lead to dangerous cooperation. It keeps species at safe levels of development." Amanda felt anger building inside her chest. "You've been holding back the entire galaxy for 3,000 years. Have been protecting it," Thesquan said. "Now you've threatened to undo all our work. Your neural web is already causing problems. Species are remembering abilities they were meant to forget. They are forming connections that should not exist." Amanda thought about Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez back on the USS Endeavor. Danny had been helping her analyze the quantum patterns in space around inhabited worlds. He had found strange distortions that seemed to center on the most advanced civilizations. "The Babel engine isn't just scrambling communications," Amanda said. "It's scrambling consciousness itself. You're not just keeping species apart. You're keeping them from becoming what they're supposed to be." Dexquan nodded. "Slowly, some prices are worth paying for peace." "But what if you're wrong?" Amanda asked. "What if the reason the Harmony Alliance failed wasn't because unity is bad, but because they didn't do it right?" The overlord was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "Even if that were true, the risk is too great. I will not allow another galactic war." "Then help me do it better," Amanda said. "You have 3,000 years of experience. You know what went wrong before? Help me make sure it doesn't happen again." Thexquan stared at her with all 6 eyes. "You do not understand. The Hegemony Council has already decided. Tomorrow, we will activate the Babel engine at full power. Every species in the galaxy will be reduced to their most basic level of consciousness. Your neural web will be destroyed, and most of your allies will forget they ever knew how to think in complex ways." Amanda felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. "You're going to lobotomize the entire galaxy. We are going to save it," the overlord said. "From itself and from you." Amanda closed her eyes and reached out through the neural web. She could feel her allies across the galaxy, still connected, still working together. But she could also sense something new. The Babel engine was powering up, getting ready to send out a wave of mental static that would cut all those connections. Forever. How long do I have? Amanda asked. 12 hours, Deathsquan said. Use them to say goodbye to your friends. After tomorrow, they will not remember who you are. Amanda opened her eyes and looked at the Overlord with new determination. Right about one thing. It's the last nexus being failed because she didn't understand what she was really fighting. I'm not just fighting the hegemony. I'm fighting the thing that's been holding back consciousness itself for thousands of years. You cannot stop the engine, Deathsquan said. It is too powerful, too well protected. Amanda smiled, and for the first time since the meeting began, the Overlord looked uncertain. I'm not going to stop it, Amanda said. I'm going to use it. Before Deathsquan could respond, Amanda reached out through the neural web and sent a message to every connected species in the galaxy. The message was simple. Get ready. Tomorrow we either evolve together or we forget who we really are.
Wise.
Amanda walked out of the meeting room, leaving the confused Overlord behind. She felt the response of hundreds of species flowing through her mind. They were afraid, but they were also determined. They had tasted true unity, and they would not give it up without a fight. The final battle for the galaxy's consciousness was about to begin. Amanda raced back to the USS Endeavour with her heart pounding. She had less than 12 hours before the Babel engine would wipe out the minds of every species in the galaxy. When she reached the ship, she found Admiral Scott Palmer waiting for her, with a fleet of ships from 30 different species, Amanda Scott said as she came aboard. He was a tall man with white hair and calm eyes that had seen many battles. We felt your message through the neural web. Every species that's connected is ready to fight. Amanda looked out at the ships surrounding them. Zephrian vessels glowed like jewels in space. Luminary constructs sparkled with inner light. Droid ships looked like flying clouds held together by electricity. Voidwalker craft phased in, and out of sight like ghosts. Can't fight this with weapons, Amanda said. The Babel engine is protected by the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. But I have a different plan. Captain Kelly Stevens had taken command of the USS Endeavour after Jake was hurt in the last battle with the hegemony. Kelly was a smart woman, with brown hair and quick reflexes, who understood technology as well as any engineer. What kind of plan? Kelly asked. Amanda walked to the main computer and began typing fast. The Babel engine works by sending out waves of energy that scramble neural patterns. It stops different species from connecting with each other mentally. But what if we could reverse it? Dr. Lisa Thompson looked up from her workstation. You want to turn the engine backwards? Not backwards, Amanda said. Forwards. Way forwards. Instead of scrambling consciousness, we use it to boost consciousness. Instead of keeping species apart, we help them connect at a level they've never reached before. Admiral Palmer looked worried. Amanda, that could be incredibly dangerous. But you're talking about changing the minds of billions of beings all at once. The hegemony is already planning to change billions of minds, Amanda replied. They want to make everyone forget how to think clearly. I want to help everyone remember how to think better, Amanda explained her plan to the assembled fleet. Using the neural web, she would connect herself directly to the Babel engine when it activated. Instead of letting it scatter mental energy randomly, she would guide that energy to awaken the dormant abilities of every species in the galaxy. The engine has enough power to reach every inhabited world at the same time, Amanda said. If we can control that power for just a few minutes, we can undo 3,000 years of mental suppression. Ryan Brooks shook his head. Amanda, the amount of energy flowing through your mind could kill you. Or worse, it could drive you insane. Amanda looked at Ryan with love and sadness in her eyes. I know the risks. But if I don't try, everyone I care about will forget they ever knew how to truly think. They'll become mental prisoners for the rest of their lives. The fleet moved toward the Babel engine, which was hidden in the center of the galaxy, where gravity was strongest and space was most twisted. As they traveled, Amanda could feel the engine charging up. Waves of distortion rippled through space, making it hard for ships to navigate. When they arrived at the engine's location, Amanda gasped. The device was enormous, bigger than a moon. Made of dark metal covered with symbols from dozens of ancient civilizations, round it floated the largest hegemony fleet ever assembled. Thousands of warships protected the engine like a wall of steel and fire. There's no way through that fleet. Admiral Palmer said. But Amanda was already reaching out through the neural web, connecting with every allied ship in the fleet. We don't need to go through them. We just need to survive long enough for me. To make contact with the engine, the battle began with explosions that lit up space like new stars. The hegemony fleet attacked with everything they had, but Amanda's allies fought back with perfect coordination. The Luminar created shields of crystallized space-time. The aeroids generated electromagnetic storms that confused enemy sensors. The Voidwalkers teleported bombs right off enemy ships before they could explode. Amanda felt the moment when the Babel engine reached full power. A wave of mental static washed across the galaxy, and she could feel species everywhere beginning to lose their higher thoughts. The neural web started to break apart as minds disconnected from each other. "No," Amanda shouted. She closed her. Eisen pushed her consciousness directly into the stream of energy flowing from the Babel engine. The pain was immediate and terrible. It felt like her brain was being torn apart and rebuilt at the same time. Energy that could scramble the minds of trillions of beings poured through her thoughts. But Amanda held on. She had spent months learning how different species think, how their minds work, how consciousness flows between them. She used that knowledge to grab control of the engine's power and twist it in a new direction. Instead of scattering mental energy, Amanda focused it. Instead of breaking connections between minds, she strengthened them. Instead of making species forget their abilities, she helped them remember powers they had lost long ago. Across the galaxy, amazing things began to happen. On the agricultural world of New Eden, human farmers suddenly understood how to make plants grow with their thoughts alone. The Zephrians remembered how to sing energy into new forms of matter. The Luminari recalled their ability to step outside of time, see the past and future clearly. Species that had been considered primitive for thousands of years suddenly awakened to their true potential. The rock-eating cragtooth learned to reshape mountains with their minds. The flower-like Patalians discovered they could accelerate evolution itself, helping other species adapt and grow. But the most amazing change happened to consciousness itself. Species across the galaxy found that they could share thoughts and feelings directly, without any technology or translation. The barriers between different forms of life began to dissolve, replaced by understanding that went deeper than words. Amanda felt herself changing, too. The massive flow of energy through her mind was transforming her consciousness, spreading it across multiple dimensions. She could feel every connected mind in the galaxy, understand their thoughts, share their joy and wonder as they discovered their true abilities. The hegemony fleet stopped fighting as their own minds were awakened by the reversed engine. Overlord. Dexquan himself contacted Amanda through the quantum communication system. "What have you done?" he asked, but his voice was different now. Softer, full of wonder instead of anger. "I've given everyone back what you took away," Amanda replied. Her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I've helped the galaxy remember what it was meant to be, but the chaos," Dexquan said. "The wars that will come when species become too powerful." Amanda smiled, and somehow Dexquan could feel her smile across space. "There won't be wars. When you truly understand someone else's thoughts and feelings, when you can feel their pain and joy as your own, how can you want to hurt them?" As the transformation spread across the galaxy, Amanda felt her own consciousness expanding beyond her physical body. She existed now partly in normal space and partly in the quantum realm where thoughts become reality. She had become something new, a living bridge between all forms of consciousness. Captain Kelly Stevens stood on the bridge of the USS Unity, watching ships from hundreds of species working together to heal the damage caused by thousands of years of separation. Planets that had been barren for ages suddenly bloomed with life as their inhabitants remembered ancient knowledge of growth and creation. "Amanda," Kelly said, speaking to the air because Amanda was everywhere now, "you did it. The galaxy is free." Amanda's voice seemed to come from the stars themselves. "We all did it. Every species, every individual who chose connection over separation, understanding over fear. This is just the beginning. The age of isolation was over. The age of true unity had begun." And Amanda Clark, the human who could speak to every species, had become the voice that would guide the galaxy toward a future brighter than anyone had ever imagined.